Alright folks, welcome back. This first part is going to be narrated. It's going to be dubbed over because I forgot to turn on the microphone when I started recording the video. So unfortunately you only have to deal with this weird audio for a little bit. So today we're going to take a look at the Hasegawa eggplane series Su-33 flanker. Now the eggplane kind of idea is something I've always toyed with. I've always sort of thought of, and you know, I am into realism. Now I do what ifs, I do science fiction, but the thing about the eggplanes is that sometimes I look at it and I think like, oh, what a neat little cute idea, and sometimes I just look at it and I say, man, that is dumb. But it's always kind of been in the back of my head that I want to try one out. And then when I saw that they have a flanker, and I'm a huge fan of the flanker, you know, from my career and everything, in the Air Force, and just knowing stuff about it, and you know, I saw that and I said, well, now I gotta give it a shot. And on Amazon it's actually pretty inexpensive. Now they have a whole bunch of different eggplanes, all the way from World War II kind of fighters up to, you know, the most modern ones, a whole series of them. And for about $10 you can get yourself one on Amazon. So I picked one up. So opening up the box, you know, I was actually surprised. I wasn't sure what to expect, but if you take a look, it's a Hasegawa kit. You have all of the quality that you can expect in a Hasegawa model kit, even though it's kind of a comical, sort of cartoonish subject. So you've got one bag of parts, you've got your instructions, and you've got decals. Let's take a look at the decals. These are actually semi-realistic decals for a Russian naval aviation flanker. A lot of the, well, a few of the actual markings you'd find, but overall, you know, the markings are pretty good. And Hasegawa quality decals, newer decals that aren't yellowed and old, are good. So these are nice decals to use. I was wondering if I was going to switch them out for something aftermarket, but I think I'm just going to go with these. The instructions are pretty simple because, you know, there's not much to do. So when you look at it, you've got basically right there, you've got everything. So you've got two choices of pilot figures, one that's, you know, human, female, girl. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the helmeted pilot because I like that look better. But I mean, just a few quick steps to actually assemble this all. It's all right there in front of you. So not a lot of physical work. I mean, we'll see when we start putting it together how much actual work it takes to do it. And then you've got one side of painting and decal reference. And you know, it's a pretty realistic flanker paint scheme. I really like the Russian naval aviation scheme. I mean, it's good. So I think it'll be kind of fun to do, and just something I haven't done before. And I thought it'd be a nice project to do, and you know, have people come along as I do it. We'll see how complicated it gets. You know, because I built a lot of flankers actually, in 172 and 148. We'll see how this compares in terms of workload. As we're opening up the package, the plastic that it's molded in is actually a great color if you just want to leave the cockpit unpainted. I don't know why they specifically chose this color, but it works. I'm still going to paint. But here's just a close-up of the really finely done panel lines. I mean, really nicely done. I was not expecting that. So it kind of really walks this line between a comical, sort of just funny subject and again, a quality Hasegawa model airplane. You know, so you've got two these cute little AA-11 Archers and AA-10 Alamos. You've got your two pilot figures. Interesting that one is, I guess they didn't want a line through her face, so that one is back to back and the other one is side to side. You know, there's, again, you can't even look for scale within this kit because the scale of the missiles doesn't work to the scale of the plane, but you know, it's an eggplane. What are you going to do? It's basic. It's very basic, just enough to be what it is, but that should make it easier to put together, I guess. So looking on this one, you have the fronts of the Alamos, the AA-10s. At first I was trying to figure out like what model of AA-10 are we building here, but then I was like, it's an eggplane. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. But again, nice details, nice panel lines. So, you know, so a few basic parts to get the shape done. And then we've got one black sprue. So you've got your exhaust complete with engine in there. You've got a bulkhead to go inside. You've got black wheels, which is nice because you only have to paint the rims now, I guess. And then you've got your clear parts. Now, I was worried about whether or not there was going to be a big seam on the middle of it, because you got this big bulbous canopy, and a lot of Hasegawa models have that one very prominent seam down the middle of the canopy. This one's done really, really well. It's very clear, very nice. I think it'll come out really, really good when it's all done. I'm probably going to wash it with some Windex and then dip it in some Future just to give it a nice crystal clear shine before we start masking and doing any kind of painting on it. But I don't really see a very noticeable seam we have to take care of. In that light, I couldn't tell if maybe there was a little bit of a seam or not, or it just looked that way, but it's a nice part. Again, impressed. Very impressed with the parts of this and how it's done. So I have a number of different paints that I could use to finish this off with. I could, everything from Vallejos to Game Air, which is Vallejo anyway. I have a lot. We'll see what I choose to use to do the Russian colors when it's all done. Right now, we're just going to focus on getting this thing built. I'm going to get started building. I will bring in my super cool 8-bit music I usually do and fast forward this so you can see the process, but you don't have to sit through it in real time. You will get started. As we look at the basic construction of this thing, no real big fit problems, a few tricky joints to place together, but there's going to be no huge gap filling or anything. Little seam around the radome and the nose we got to take care of, and we want that nice and clean so we can get a nice clean white radome on there. You really got to squeeze and get the pieces together in some places, but it does go together pretty quick overall. Yes, I did work out of order. I always do that. I wanted to hold an eggplane in my hand. I wanted to get the basic construction done. Then I'll go back and I'll work on the cockpit and the pilot and all that stuff as we go. I just really wanted to see what it was going to come out to look like. When I was doing the fit of these intakes, the pieces, the kit is engineered so well. Once again, I had to say it again, surprised. I thought this would be taken very lightly, but it's not. It could almost be a snap together kit. It's really, really well done. I'm gluing everything, of course, because I want it to stay together, and I don't want any seams or anything. But it really goes together well for a comical, cute little plane. All right, we're on the regular mic. So I had talked about earlier that we have to just do a little bit of sanding and make the seam nice and even. There is one place where they attached it to the sprue, which is right here on the leading edge extension. And man, that is an awkward place to have to work because the curve there is so subtle. It's really a pain in the butt to get in there and sand that down nice and flush and maintain the curve and everything. Other than that, it's pretty easy to shape it all up after getting it all put together and trimmed and stuff. I'm liking it so far. It's pretty nice. Assembly-wise, we're probably not going to put on the exhaust until it's finished. We're probably not going to when I build flankers, just because getting in here for painting, once that vertical stabilizer is on there, is such a chore. So we're going to leave them off as we go. So I'm going to build this just like I would build any other flanker project. It just happens to be small and egg-shaped, I think we are going to have to put just a little bit of putty right there. Maybe just a slight amount of filling, but nothing big at all. So I'm going to just shape up the nose a little bit here before we move on to anything else, and maybe a little bit on the stinger, also known as the flanker's wanker, yeah, Air Force terms. And then I will be back. That didn't take too long. I need to, excuse me, I need to just scribe up some panel lines right there, right there, and right there, and right there. I'm going to fill that little tiny divot. And we're going to be good to move on to the next step. And I mean, the panel line is, you know, so thin and shallow on this because of the, you know, the small size and the weird non-scale of the plane. It doesn't take much to put this line back on. What I don't want to do is end up making this deeper. Okay, so where are we at? Egg plane is egg planed, we know that. I started working on the canopy, and so far the absolute hardest part of this for me has been doing the masking on the canopy, because the lines are so fine, and they are, I mean, it's such a small piece. It really is. Look, I'm getting older, my eyes don't work as well. I'm having some trouble actually seeing. There's no texture to the panel lines at all, to the canopy frames, sorry. So I stopped what I was doing there, and what I'm going to do is wait till I can actually put the canopy onto the plane, and then I can use the plane as a better way to hold it and move it around towards the light and get all those fine cutouts done, because it is actually pretty hard to see. So far, most challenging part of this whole build is this. So I've got my pilot, we've got some putty waiting to dry there, and did fill that one little tiny divot on the nose, and really that's all we're waiting for to start painting. I'm gonna do the cockpit obviously, but there's pieces I left off on purpose. Landing gear doors are going to be painted separately because it's easier to do that way. I already told you about the verts. They're going to be separate. Landing gear will be separate, you know, so I'll spray them white. So far it's coming along. I mean, it's coming along very easily and very quickly. Very quickly. I actually did not see what this... Oh, that's for the Christus, the infrared search and tracking system up front. Okay, forgot about that. So far it's coming along pretty nicely. I decided I'm going to use, and it's not an exact match, but, you know, it's an egg plane. So I'm going to use light green blue for the interior of the cockpit, because I don't have the exact color I want to use. Not within easy reach anyway. And it's my egg plane, so... But this is going to be, it's a little bit to the greener side, but this is going to work for the interior. We'll get a nice orange flight suit, because Russian Navy pilots do fly in orange flight suits. Now, they typically fly in white helmets. I think I might do mine in something a little bit more bright and shiny. We'll see how that works out when I get there, just, to give it a little something. So I gotta kind of take a break for a minute, let this putty cure so I can get to sanding it smooth again, and then I can get to work doing all the painting for the interiors, get that canopy on, and then finish cutting the canopy mask. Then it's time to prime everything. Where we are at right now in Operation Eggplane. So I have my pilot done. Happy. Got a little Russian flag on his shoulder. Looks good. Mixed a couple colors to make a nice shiny helmet that I like. I like it better than the regular old, white. I think it looks good. So I'm not getting too detailed on this guy. He's an eggplane guy, He's not gonna get a lot, but we've got the decal for the instrument panel in there. I am not going to put anything over that. I'm just, it's very simple, putting it on. Interior of the cockpit is painted, believe it or not, you can just barely see the difference in the paint. Of course, you can see the semi-gloss for the black I did for some of the combing and the interior there. So we are ready to mount Mr. Pilot. And I will just get a drop of super glue, and then we'll get that canopy situation worked out, which we're still kind of working on. If I had little tiny red star decals, I would have put them on. Ooh, got it. If I had little red star decals, I would have put them on his helmet, but I don't. But I think that would look cool just to have. So, well, you're not going to see that instrument panel at all. I want to blow away some of that cyanoacrylate so we don't craze the cockpit, the canopy when we put it on. And just a quick test fitting, make sure Mr. Pilot fits in there. Yep, that's going to be all good. So now I can get the canopy mounted on, and then I can finish unmasking the canopy rails and get them base coated with the interior color. And then I can get everything set up for priming this whole project. I'm having fun. I'm having fun doing this. Behind the scenes, I did some priming of the eggplane and all the other parts that are still on the sprue. I just used Vallejo white surface primer. I also made a decision as to what kind of paints I'm going to use to actually paint everything here. I have several sets of AKAH paint sets. Now, they're Russian made, from Russia, so they're actually really good whenever you're doing, a Russian or ex-Soviet style aircraft. The colors are really nice. They airbrush pretty well. They're a little picky, when it comes to what kind of airbrush thinner they like to work with. And the colors are, you follow the numbers, not the names, because the names can get a little wonky. And so this is specifically, Russian deck aviation. So I have a set with these actual colors. So I figured we're just going to use these because they're the perfect colors. Now we have the color callouts on the instructions, but I think what I'll do is, of course I'll use this pattern but I'll just refer to I'll match up these colors to the, however you pronounce that. They call them Akan. I don't know if AKAH is the Russian, the way you write it out in Cyrillic that, translates to Akan, but that's what we're going to use. So I had a little trouble. I couldn't find this pale blue. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. So I'm substituting an incredibly close, it's actually blue, lower surface. So that'll work. This is a wraparound light blue that basically goes around the whole plane. And then this will not be on the plane because basically it's a 3-color camouflage that goes on. A dark blue, a medium blue, and a light blue. I'm going to do it freehand with the airbrush, just tune it down to a very small fine line, and paint it all. The only masking I'll do is, obviously for the nose, and the little white tips of the vertical stabilizers. The missiles need to get masked off, obviously. And then, that one little line right there needs to be crisp, so we'll do that, when we get there. But other than that, all I got to do is get the airbrush loaded up and ready to go, and we will have fun painting. So I had a little bit of trouble controlling the consistency of dark blue. I wasn't happy with it exactly. I've never airbrushed anything this small in my life. Normally I would brush paint something like this, but it came out pretty good, I think. I went back and did some cleanup with the light and the medium and the dark blue. And I just realized, man, I have all this overspray. I gotta fix some of the dark blue, which I'll do real quick. I just cleaned the whole airbrush. Yeah, great. But I'm going to fix that dark blue right there, and then got to do some brush painting of the white on the dielectric panels, re-whiten the missiles, do some metallics around the engines, and then we'll be ready to do the gear bays. A couple other little details before we can gloss coat this and get it ready for decals. But all in all, I'm still pretty happy with it. It's a cool little kit. So look at this little egg plane. It's all coming together. So I did a lot of detail work since the last time we saw it. A whole lot. We've got a little tail hook there with little stripes. We've got missiles on board. We've got all the painting for the engines, plating for the gun. We've got the refueling probe, some panels and everything. I didn't realize there's actually decals for that, but there's now I know there's a decal for that panel over there, so we'll leave that. But everything's coming together really, really nicely. So we're ready for gloss coating, so we can put on some decals on this guy. I really like the way that this is coming out.
It's just a cute little thing. I know I've said this before. I love flankers. I love the whole family of them. It's one of my favorite aircraft, not only in looks, but in terms of what their potential is, very limited by the electronics and the avionics that, Russia's able to put in there compared to, modern Western stuff. But the airframe itself is amazing. This is just a cute little project to do. Look at this pretty shiny airplane. So a few hours after applying a good coat of gauzy, it's ready for decals. The landing gear is dry fit in right now, just so I could have it sit nicely. But we've got a nice, shiny, smooth surface for applying the decals to it. It's really looking good. I really am enjoying this project. I cannot describe the fun factor of putting this little guy together. A little frustrating at times, just because it's so small. But there's no other word. It's a fun little project to do. So I've got my decals. Let me get to work deciding which one I'm going to do. I kind of like the Eagles over the Tiger. So I think I'm going to pick one of those, though, and get to work getting this guy marked up. With decals done, and looking pretty nice, actually. I took some watered down Nuln oil and did panel lines on everything. And I did it kind of extra thick, not just inside the lines, but, since I didn't do pre-shading on this because it's so small, I did it around the line a little bit to help give a little pre-shade type appearance, not just in the line itself, but around the lines a little bit. Help it stand out a little bit, look a little dirty-ish, So this now is all ready for a coat of semi-gloss over everything. I'm not going to give another coat of gloss over the decals because it's so small and I don't want to cake it up with, clear on everything. So I'm just going to go straight to the semi-gloss on everything, and then going to give brush on a coat of flat on the tire. Got to put the landing gear doors on and everything too. But it's just about done. Then we got to put on the Erstis lens cover there, and we're about ready to uncover the canopy. So I really like this little guy. This guy is now semi-glossed. Landing gear doors installed. Wheels are glued and matte. I gave a quick brush of gloss just on the metallic parts to help them stand out a little bit. What we have to do now is install the Erstis lens, which I've already painted gloss black on the back of. I'm just waiting for this little guy to shoot out of my hand as I'm working with it, because wouldn't that be, the classic thing to happen? Wow, where's that part that needs trimming and shaving? Right there. Yeah, this part's going to look a little rough. But I wonder if we can get it to stick in without gluing, or if we need to put a little dab of super glue on the end. No, it looks like we're going to need just a little dab. Not thrilled with the fit, but I'm guessing this will have to do. And now that it's kind of supported in there a little better, might be able to trim some of that excess plastic. This is a challenge because I don't want to scratch any of the paint job, and there's not a really good firm way to hold this without risking breaking off a little part here or there, but okay, that's going to have to do. So now that it's all done, we can go and start unmasking the canopy, which is really the last step on this little guy. And I am very excited to see our results. Like a lot of projects, this has been kind of an on-off, working on some other stuff in between. So it's actually, for me, it's been a little while since I saw this pilot. So I'm kind of excited. There he is. Actually looking cool. For Christmas, my youngest son, he saw me working on this, and he asked if he could have it when it's all done. And I said, I'll tell you what, how would you like to do your own with me? And we'll work on it and paint it together and everything. And he was very excited, so he got an egg plane for Christmas. And we assembled it today, and we'll probably paint it tomorrow. It's not going to be airbrushed. He likes to paint, he's 5, so he paints by brush. But I'm curious to see. He said he wants it to be blue and gray, so I don't know how he's going to do it, but I'm curious to see how he chooses to finish his egg plane. Okay. Here we go. I have to do just slight cleanup around some of the canopy edges before I'm done here, but I want to get the general unmasking done just so we can see the cockpit and see the look of this thing when it's, finished. I remember having so much trouble doing the masking on this just because it's so small. And a large part of the trouble was finding a good way to hold this thing while cutting around the details of the canopy rails and everything, and making sure I was getting it right. I mean, that was really the hardest part, was because it's such a tiny, tiny little thing. But it looks like it was all worth it as the mask comes off. And yeah, see, there's a few little edges I'll just clean up really nicely to call it good in the end. But I have no idea what's on in the background over in the next room. If anybody's wondering what that noise, I don't even know if you can hear it on camera. Sounds very adventurous, though. And last little bit to come off. That gloss black instrument combing sure does show gloss through this. Maybe I should have done that in flat, but egg plane, do whatever you want. And we have an egg plane. What a cool little project this was. I'm really happy with it. Got our little chibi pilot in there, looking pretty cute with its big head. What I noticed going through this was that I don't have the decals in front of me. If you choose to assemble the female pilot without the helmet, they actually have decals for her big anime eyes, which makes it really easy to do. So overall, fun project to do. Some unique challenges just because it's so small, but something really different, a subject that I love presented in a fun little way. and something that you can do with the kids. It's obviously not, we're not going for hyper realism and accuracy on this thing, but just a fun little thing. And if you want to, they're relatively cheap model kits. Some of them are under $10, so you can really build up a little collection of the egg plane through the whole series if you were so inclined. So what do you guys think of egg plane? Still have a little bit of cleanup to do around the canopy rails, but I'll get to that right after this video is done. A cute little project. Really cute little project. It will sit on my shelf and just look very anime-esque, very cartoony, but still it will be a Su-33 among my flankers that I love. So I hope you guys enjoyed this process. Let me know if you like one long video with projects or if you prefer me doing longer projects in separate parts. I'm presenting this one as one long video because I figured it definitely won't be as long as a larger, more accurate, detailed model kit, obviously. But I don't know how you guys feel about that, what you'd rather see. So I just thought it'd be interesting to do the whole project, one video, one shot, and there we go. I definitely had a lot of fun putting this together. So egg planes, pretty cool. All right, so thank you guys for watching again, and I hope that this was entertaining. If you're contemplating trying out one of these little things, yeah, go for it. Worth the money, a lot of fun, different kind of thing to have on your shelf in your collection. So I will see you guys again next time, and I don't know, we'll just see what project comes up next.